What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel, man. So in today's video, I want to talk about the 5 mistakes most phone flippers make when they're first getting started in the business. So if it's your first time here, my name is Hani Mahari. Make sure to like this video and make sure to subscribe, man. So let's get it started. Number one is consistency. You see, a lot of people who want to get into this business, they're not consistent, right? They get in the first couple of months, 6 months in, they get very excited, right? They're starting to make a little bit of profit. But they're not really tracking. They're not really seeing their gains, where it's really coming from, where they can actually benefit. So they're kind of just treating it as a side hustle instead of actually treating it as a business, right? And so if you're not consistent, you're not going to get results, right? So you have to be able to treat this like a business. It's not a side hustle. I mean, of course, when you're first getting started, you're buying devices for 100, reselling them for 200, but eventually you have to understand that, okay, how can you register this as a business? That's ultimately your goal. If you're actually someone who's serious and wants to take this long term, it's about being consistent, and it's not about showing up, for 6 months. It's about showing up for almost a year, 2 years, and then eventually, mastering the skills to be able to sort of, do this full time, and everybody kind of knows you for phones, right? So it's about consistency, right? Doing it for a long period of time. Number two is that they don't inspect phones when they're buying them, right? They buy phones without actually understanding the market. So there's a couple ways to do this. Number one, you got to be able to appraise a phone, right? You could use platforms like Facebook, right? Marketplace. And also, I know if you're in the US market, use Craigslist, eBay as well, to check how much phones are actually going for, right? Because here's the thing. In business, you make money on the buy. You don't make money when you sell. So if you don't understand where you're buying the phones at, what price you're getting it at, most likely you're going to be buying too high. What I also do too is I reach out to wholesalers. I ask people how much are they actually paying for phones. So ultimately, because if I know how much my wholesalers are buying for my direct buyers, now I know I have to get it at a certain price below that, right? So if I check Facebook Marketplace, for example, an iPhone 12 is going for about, let's say, $400, right? If I know my wholesalers are paying, say, $250, right, for iPhone 12s, right? I know that now I need to get that phone for at least $200 to $150, right? So I can be able to sell it to them for $250. So you always have to look at the market to see what's going, because retail is $400, right? It could be $350 at best. So you got to be able to know where to get the phones for, right? So this is where you got to be able to research, talk to people, right? Look at the market. So you don't want to buy something without actually doing a little bit of, inspecting and actually looking at the market. So always inspect the market. Number three is that, they trust their sellers. You see, a lot of times, when you're talking to people, understand that there's two people. There's a buyer and there's a seller. You are trying to sell to a customer. They're trying to buy a phone off you, right? And it's the opposite as well too, right? When they have a device, they're trying to sell you. They're trying to make money, right? So buyers and sellers, a lot of time when people make a mistake is that they trust the seller. For example, someone could tell you, this phone works very well, the IMEI is clean, but if you don't inspect it, if you don't go out there, go on platforms like SigW to check the IMEI number, check the serial number, if it's unlocked, or the blacklist, you got to be able to sort of ask those questions beforehand when you're meeting the seller to understand what exactly you're buying, right? So you can't trust the seller automatically without doing your own research, because at the end of the day, like I said, there's two people. There's a buyer and there's a seller, right? So if another person tells you this phone is good, it's unlocked, there's no issues, you got to be able to sort of inspect. So before you meet a customer one-on-one, you got to be able to get the IMEI number so it can tell you to make, the model, and if the device is blacklisted. So when you go meet the seller, now you know what kind of device it is. Where a lot of people make a mistake is they buy a phone, and then when they go meet the seller, they find out that the phone is logged, or they haven't ran the IMEI number. So always make sure, to always do your research before meeting a seller. Number four is that, they don't diversify. You see, a lot of people only stick to just selling iPhones. They don't know that you can actually make money off video games, PS5s. You can make money off Apple Watches. You can make money off iPads, right? You can make money off Samsungs. There's so many different markets for you to get into. But if you don't expand what you're doing in your business to be able to make money different ways, it's going to be very hard for you to be able to scale and grow that business, right? So you got to be able to sort of understand what market you're in, right? See, sometimes the iPhone market is very hot, but another time the Samsung market is also very hot too, because here's the thing you got to realize. Some people like iPhones, some people like Samsungs, right? And if you don't sort of, have a little bit of experiment with Samsungs, let me give you a hint. For example, I actually sell a lot of Samsung. I remember the highest month when I made roughly about $20,000 in the business, what I was selling a lot was actually Samsungs. The reason being is because you see a lot of people who are either, you see people who are back overseas or back, Africa, they use phones like Samsung because they're not really used to iPhones. So what I was doing, I was buying a bunch of Samsung from one of my suppliers and just getting them over here and selling them to people literally in parts of Africa, people that don't really have access to iPhones or don't know how to use them, right? So you gotta remember, people like different things, but you gotta know where the market is, where your target audience is. So what I did was I knew that, okay, everybody is only selling iPhones. So how do I tap in with Samsungs? Then I started doing laptops. And then the laptop market is also a big thing. Because remember, people, when they're going to the Apple store, what do they buy? They don't just buy only an iPhone. They buy iPhones, they buy iPads, they buy smartwatches, right? They even buy, laptops, MacBooks. So you got to be able to sort of diversify you got to be able to get different products so you can be able to distribute it to different people because everybody likes different. Number 5 is keeping it simple. You see, I believe in KISS, algorithm of keep it simple, stupid, right? Everything is simple. A lot of people, what they do is when I first got into the business, all I did was I focused on buying and selling, right? And then eventually, once I learned how to do buying and selling, I got into repairs. What I see a lot of times now is everybody's sort of trying to do everything, right? Master one skill, right? So master the art of negotiating, talking to people, going out there, right? Getting rejected 100 times until eventually people are going to buy your product or service, right? Where people, a lot of time, what they do is they try to get into repairs. They try to get into Google unlocking. Then you realize you're all over the place. So master one thing to be able to gradually succeed over time, right? So I probably say is, understand that you can't do everything in the business, right? Until you start having a team, people around you, then you can start delegating certain tasks. What I do now with the phone business is I buy and sell, I wholesale, but I also do repairs. You see, in the beginning, I was doing repairs by myself, but I realized in order for me to grow, I need to hire somebody else. So I have a technician who I hire on the side who can be able to so I delegate the task to him. I give him the phones to repair and I pay him a fee because I understand that I'm not going to sit there for, an hour or two repairing phones because I realized I could do other things in the business where it could generate me more money, right? So you have to understand your revenue generating activity. What is it that's going to make you most money in the business? So for me, I know that I got to get on the phone, talk to people, close deals, build relationships, right? Produce content, right? That's going to get me more sort of, outcome in the end. So understand that you can't do everything in business. So stick to one thing, the fundamental, what you're actually good at, be able to expand afterwards. So, that's kind of where I could tell you. Yeah, because here's the thing. A lot of people just want to get into this business, right? But they sort of trying to do everything. Also to understand, if you want to scale this business, you have to be able to have a CRM system where now, once you have these people on board, you got to be able to sort of have metrics and look at where everybody is in the business, right? So that's important because at the end of the day, we don't want to just treat this as a side hustle like I talked about in the beginning. We want to treat this like a business. So having a CRM system, which is called customer relationship management, where we can see all our team, all our people on our team, be able to sort of structure them and see where they are, right? So these are the 5 common mistakes most phone flippers make. Make sure to like this video and subscribe and stay tuned for the next video. I'm out.